Hey class, if this is a recommended video, then it means on the Unit 10 quiz you missed some question that has to do with constructing a confidence interval for a mean. And that could be several possible questions. I mean, question number, let's see, number 5, number 6, or number 8, or number 9, all involved constructing confidence intervals for means. So I'm gonna work through some examples to hopefully help you be able to get that question right. But I did want to point out that you have to look for the keyword mean. And there is one question that's really just more, I think, like a multiple choice kind of question, where you have to realize that the word mean is preferred over the word average. Mean is preferred rather than the word average. So realize there is some question that you might have missed regarding that. Mean is preferred. The reason for that is the word average could mean mean or median or mode. All of those are referred to as averages. So mean is preferred. The other thing related to that same question, and I believe this one was question number 5 from the quiz. The other thing is that often when people talk about margin of error, they forget to give the confidence level. And so the 95% is the confidence level, and that is what is often forgotten. The media often leaves this out, but yet it is so important because depending on the level, that is how confident we are in our estimate. So you just have to be on the lookout for one of the quiz questions that you need to realize that the word mean is preferred over the word average, and that the media frequently leaves out the confidence level, which in this case is the 95%. We only in this class learned how to do 95% confidence intervals, but it's very important that that confidence level should be included, even though it is frequently left out, like election polls and things like that are where we use a lot of this stuff, but you rarely will hear the media actually bring in the confidence level. So that is one of them that you might have missed. That was question 5. All right, the other ones are going to involve calculations. So let me pull up the formulas. And I'm going to once again show y'all how to do these by hand in case that's your preference. But I'm also going to show you how to use the Excel worksheet because that's the easy, quicker way, I think, of getting these answers. All right, so if it's a confidence interval for a mean and you see the keyword mean in the problem, then the formulas that you're going to want to know to use if you do it by hand are these first two, that the margin of error is either using a 2 or a 1.96 is this formula, 1.96 times the standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. And once you get that E, that margin of error, to get the confidence interval, you then do X bar minus E, and whatever that value is, you'll put it in the lower left-hand box, less than the mean, less than the, and then in the right-hand box, you'll be putting the X bar plus the E. But you got to be able to calculate the E first, which is this top formula up here that I gave you. All right, so let's pull up an example. And this one is similar to question number 6 on the quiz. So keyword mean is definitely in the problem. You see it in several places. Mean there, and then it says sample mean. So you should be able to tell that it's a confidence interval for means. And they're going to ask you to give the margin of error. There will be a box for that. And then they will actually ask for the 95% confidence interval. They will give you the sample size. In this case, it's 320. The sample mean, 22.4 in this case, and the sample standard deviation. So if I were going to do this by hand, I would, to calculate the margin of error, which is what you need to do first, I would do 1.96 times the standard deviation, which is the 5.3. Don't get your numbers mixed up. And if I were going to do this in Google, I would just do divided by SQRT, lowercase, that means square root. And the sample size that was given was 320. So this is how I would type that into the Google search bar and then press enter or equals. So I'm going to put this in 1.96 times 5.3 divided by the square root of 320. and I get the 0.581. I think this question is going to want you rounding to 3 decimal places or the thousandths place. So just be careful that you're rounding appropriately. Like I get 0.5807, but to 3 decimal places, that is 0.581. So that to get the lower box for my confidence interval, I'm going to take the sample mean, which they gave me was 22.4, and I'm going to do 22.4 minus 0.581. And when I do that, 22.4 minus 0.581, I get 21.819, and you see that on the screen to your left. To get the upper box, the box on the right, I do 22.4 plus the 0.581 margin of error. So you have to make sure you put the lower number on the left, otherwise you'll get it counted wrong. 22.4 plus 0.581, and I get the 22.981. So those would be your answers, that you're going to need the confidence interval, plus you'll have a box for your margin of error, and you just have to be real careful about where you put the numbers when you're calculating it and rounding to the appropriate number of decimal places. Now, if you used the worksheet, since these problems are about means, you'll want to use the Unit 9 worksheet. So let me pull that up. All right, and here's what you would fill in. Sample size, you'll fill that in. That was 320. They gave that to us. Sample mean was 22.4. You'll fill that in because they gave that to us. And sample standard deviation was 5.3. But that would be all you fill in. They didn't give you the margin of error. You got to calculate that yourself. And as soon as you put in the 5.3, I'm going to press enter on the keyboard. And here's what I need. Find the margin of error, but you'll just have to round that to 3 decimal places. There's the 0.581 number right there. And then it also gives you your confidence interval. You just have to round it appropriately. There's the 21.819, and here's the 22.981. And again, it's just going to be left up to you to do the rounding, but otherwise this worksheet does all the calculating for you. You wouldn't even need to do it by hand as I showed you on the right. So that is a basic confidence interval for means. Now, another type of problem that you might have missed regarding confidence intervals for means is you might have gotten one that, and let me pull it up on the slides. All right, you might get one that wants you to use a single value to estimate. Let me see if I can find one like that. Yep, and it may actually be in the Unit 10 slides. Let me pull that up. All right, yeah. So there will be a question that wants you to still calculate a confidence interval for means, but it will ask you to use a single value first to estimate the mean weight. And of course, the keyword mean would be in there. So if it wants a single value, those would be the keywords to look out for it. A single value is really the same as your sample mean. So that would be something to look out for, is that if it asked you for single value in the problem, which I think this was question number 8 on the quiz, a single value to estimate just means give the sample result. So that would mean just give your sample mean as the answer to that. Then it wants you to go into a confidence interval, but that is exactly like the previous example I just worked for you. They will give you like the margin of error and the sample size and the sample standard deviation so that you can go ahead and calculate the confidence interval, okay? Let's see what else. Another one is they may give you raw data. Let me see if I've got one on here like that. Yep. All right, so if you get a question like this, where it's still a confidence interval for means, and you can tell that if you look at the keywords, but when you click on the little table, you get a pop-up and it shows raw data. If that happens, then you want to go to Excel, and remember there's the little icon right here that you click on and then highlight where it says open in Excel. And then when you do that, you just want to remember, let me see if I can pull up Excel for y'all. Yep, actually, let me just show it down here. All right, so let's suppose you opened up the data in Excel and you were ready to do your calculations. If you get one of these that you have the raw data, you just have to remember that you yourself have to calculate the sample mean and the sample standard deviation. But it's easy to do. You're just going to go to any blank cell, start with an equal sign, and then type in the word average, all in caps, open parentheses, click and drag down your numbers, close parentheses, and press enter. There is your X bar. That is your sample mean. That would be your, if it was on one of those where you had to give a single value estimate, that would be your estimate. To get the standard deviation, equal sign, STDEV, but dot S, not dot P. Open parentheses, click and drag down the numbers, close parentheses, and press enter. And that would be S equals 13.61722. I would take it to as many places as you get. So that now you would be ready to go ahead and calculate your confidence interval. Notice the sample size in this case is just 8. I notice there are 8 numbers. So the N is 8. And then all you would have to do is go to your Unit 9 worksheet. Clear out these things from the previous example. Type in your sample size, which is 8. Your sample mean, which is the 81.5. Your sample standard deviation, which was that 13.61722 number I got, and then press enter. There's your margin of error, and there's your confidence interval. It would be that easy using the worksheet. And if you don't use the worksheet, then again, you're just going to have to go back and use those formulas that I used when I worked the previous example by hand. So that this video is all about confidence intervals for means, showing you what formulas by hand to use or how to use the worksheet, which is, I think, quicker and easier. But of course, it's up to you what you're more comfortable with. And then also showing you how to, if you get the one that's raw data, which I think is question number 9, showing you how to go ahead and open that in Excel, but then use the equal average and the equal standard deviation.s functions to get the X bar and S values that you need. Then you can either use the worksheet or use the formulas by hand.